Hi, I am Kevin Smith of Beast and Cleaver, and today we're cooking the picanha, the steak that we cook like duck. It's got this amazing fat cap. It's kind of a similar shape to a duck breast, only a lot bigger. So we kind of treat it like that. We'll score this lovely fat, render it down in the pan, and put it in a dry pan. We don't need much fat because there's all this lovely fat on here. And we'll slow roast it in the oven, finish it with some butter, slice it, and it is an amazing steak. So we've got this extension of the bottom round. This part here would come down onto the back leg. This part kind of sits on up here, so it doesn't do as much work. So it's a lot more tender than the bottom round. We want fat on it, but we don't want that much. So just going to give it a little trim, nothing crazy. You can keep all this fat, you know, render it down if you want, but for me today, I'm just going to trim it down, looking at the fat cap. How much fat do we want on this? See this side here? It's a bit too much fat. It's trimming. You can see there's less fat here. We'll cut in the meat here. And then what I'm going to do is just simply trim this off down here. Again, this is going to go to sausage. Gives me an idea of what I'm looking at for fat cap now. I'm going to square off down here too. A tiny bit more fat up here coming off. Don't want to go crazy. Then, just like a duck breast, I'm going to score the fat. I don't want to score into the meat. That will help render the fat out, but it'll also help tenderize the sinew underneath it. So I've got my pan over there at 370, so medium to high heat. Don't want to be crazy because we're going to render this low and slow in the pan. So you can see kind of the duck breast thing going on here. I'm going to season this up and get this guy going into the pan. Sometimes you'll come across these with all the fat trimmed off. You're going more into like a coulotte steak there. For this technique, you want to leave all the fat on. Cooking this fat down, rendering it out is going to create so much flavor. And thinking of it like duck breast, you know, like when we cook duck breast, we want to cook the skin and you start to see the meat turn color. And then typically we'll flip it over and just rest it in the fat, and that's going to allow the meat to rest and continue to cook. The pan is on, it's medium heat. I'm going to get just a little bit of tallow. We don't need much because we're going to render some. I don't want it to stick either, so generous salt. Again, one of the big differences between home cooking and restaurant cooking is the amount of salt that we use in restaurants is a lot more than what you probably use at home. You don't have to use as much salt as we do, but if you're doing something special like this, then make it taste as good as you possibly can. Get it in this pan, it fits perfectly. I'm just going to leave that there for just a second. What we want to be doing with this is creating colour on the pan, on the steak. But you can see it's going to take a lot of time to do that. So I don't want a screaming hot pan. I'm actually going to turn it down a little lower. And I'm not adding any butter or herbs or spices at the moment. I just want the fat to develop flavour, soften, and start to render out those natural flavours that are inside the fat. So slow and low. And when we cook this in the oven, we're going to cook it fat side down as well, just like a duck breast. And then what we're hoping for is to have a really crispy skin that's rendered. Some rare meat on this side, some more crispier, well done meat, medium done meat on the other side. So we will obviously turn it over to get some basting going on it, but not yet. This is a slow process. The pan's at what I think is the right temperature, 360 over here. And you can see like the steak is never going to be completely flat and even, so certain parts will caramelize quicker than others. So I want to be like moving it around. This is going to take me a good 10 minutes here. So I'm like bending it slightly to get all that fat coming out of the meat so we get the colour going on it. I can see where it needs to be done more, cooked more. We're starting to see where we're going with this now. Looking like a really nice, giant 50-pound duck breast. So you'd be really tempted to like turn up the heat and rush this, but that's not what we want to do. We merchandise it two different ways in the shop. We sell the whole muscle as a picanha, and if we turn it into a steak, we cut it against the grain and call it a coulotte, which is essentially the French name for that particular steak. Really starting to look like a duck breast now. And when I'm thinking about duck, you know, I'm thinking about stuff like star anise, cinnamon, garlic, some fresh laurel, bay, amazing flavors, but we don't want to put those in just yet. So the reason we're doing this is to really render out the fat, right? There's still a lot of fat left in this chunk of fat on the outside. You can see that I started with hardly any fat, and now there's like 3 or 4 tablespoons in there already. So you'd be tempted to wanting to start basting the raw meat here. And I mean, if you do, it's not the end of the world. It's, I just like really treating this like duck. You can see up here, it's a little bit floppy still, the meat. It's like, there's no, this is looking great here. Right, if you look up here, it's a little bit limp, it's a little bit grey. When I'm picking it up, I'm trying to pick it up by the meat and not damage the lovely little score marks we have. Again, really close now, really close. Have a couple of minutes and I think we'll be there. The meat's starting to get coloured around the outside. On the inside, it's still completely raw. So don't be fooled again that this is done. It's completely raw up here. Now I'm going to turn it over. Come in with all of the butter. Because I think this is exactly where I want to be. And this is when I want to start basting with all these lovely, going to put the bay in at the end. Basting, getting all the flavour into the fat. So now I'm going to turn it over and it's going to be ready to go into the oven. So skin side down, take these lovely fresh bay. Amazing flavour if you can get your hands on fresh bay. It's so different than the dried stuff. Get some spatters going as it cooks out. It's kind of like vanilla, lime, really amazing flavour. There we go. Got the oven at 300 over here. Gonna go in. I'm gonna use a thermometer and cook it till about 140-ish degrees on this one. I don't want to go too rare. Again, we're looking for some different type of textures going on. We want crispy skin. The top is going to be a little bit rarer than the bottom because of the extended cooking time. I'm guessing this is going to be anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes depending on how this oven is running today. I'm going to pull this out now. It's been in a little bit longer. We didn't have the convection on, so it's low fan. It's been in for about 25 to 30 minutes rather than the 10, but that is okay. It's exactly where we want it to be. The beauty about this is we got some crispy end pieces, which are going to be more on the well done side, and then the center is going to be beautiful and rare in the middle. Oh, look at the color of that skin. It's like golden. You got all this like crispy stuff in here. Just going to leave this rest in the pan as well here. We don't need to take this out. So a big piece of meat like this, we need to rest it for a good 10 to 15 minutes. Again, if we're sticking to our rule of half the amount of cooking time, you know, this has been in for 25-30 minutes, so we'll give it at least 10 minutes to rest. The great thing about this little roast is you have something for everyone. You have the rare stuff in the middle, you have the kind of crispy pieces up here too. So, you know, it ranges from all different temperatures. I'm just going to show you with one of these great little thermometers here how to like take a look and see what we've got going on. So right in the center, we're around 125 degrees, which is exactly what we're looking for. Really rare. Down here, it's going to be hopefully in the 150s. There we go. So we got this lovely, almost like overdone, well done down here, but that eats amazing with this steak. Over the back, 137. For me, like cooking a perfect steak is like having variance in it. This is like 157 and 125 within 3 inches. This is like amazing. And the way we get this is from that cooking technique, from the slow roasting of it. If you had it in a searing hot oven, you're going to have a lot more well done around the edges here. Oh, gets plump. Thinking about that like duck breast scenario that we've got here now, you look at this and how is the grain structure running? I can see it's running this way. So for me to eat at its most tender, I want to be cutting it almost like this. But just for what I'm going to do here, I'm going to cut it straight down the middle here. And we get this insanely beautiful piece of rendered fat down here. That to me is like the perfect way to cook a slightly bigger piece of meat. I'm gonna come down this end now and start portioning it out so we can get it on the plate. It's coming from well done to rare in the space of a few inches. Look at the marbling on this, look at the grain structure. The reason we chose like the best steaks to cook is, you know, people don't know so much about this one, but again, like the amount of variance you get here is massive. Well done to perfectly medium rare in here, practically just at 125. I'm gonna just start plating this up over here, getting all these lovely pieces on. This is again like enough for 5-6 people, I think. The grain structure is amazing. Juices are just popping out of it here, getting down to the end. People who don't want it rare, they got the well done pieces. I'm gonna take our lovely resting juices over here, all of our crispy garlic and star anise, all that lovely butter, and I don't want to waste any of it. It's just gonna go completely over the top. You know, so you got these lovely fresh bay, star anise, garlic. I mean, you take that to a little dinner party, 5-6 people, you'll be very happy. Some Maldon salt, generous with the salt. Okay, so picanha's done, it's come out of the oven, it's rested. All those lovely resting juices have gone in with all the beautiful butter and the cooking juices. I'm gonna cut a piece because it's just a little bit too big for me to throw one of these giant pieces in my mouth. So just want to get in, get all that fat, get some of that crispy garlic, and see what this is like. It's got so much flavour, so much texture. It's almost like eating a medium rare brisket. It's insane. You got that really, really fatty cap up here, pink, well done on the outside. It's amazing. So, so tender. I wouldn't cook it any other way than like this. I mean, change up the spices by all means, but render that fat, slow roast in the oven, delicious. The other great thing about a steak like this, they go for $18.99 a pound. This is enough to feed at least 6 people here, you know, so easy to do, really, really versatile. You can overcook it, you can undercook it, and it's still gonna be really good. And that's how we do the picanha.
Subscribe to our channel and visit ChefSteps.com for more tips, recipes, guides, and tools to help you level up in the kitchen.